Hey, it's Ashwin and Ed. Welcome to another episode, this time number 5 of Over Budget. Today's guest is Chris Cabaniss. He's the co-founder of Falcon Digital Marketing and the Online Advertising Academy. He's also a contributor to Search Engine Land and quite a prolific poster on LinkedIn. Great follow if you haven't already done that. Chris is here to talk to us today about lead gen advertising and how to feed good data back into the system, how to make sure that you're using all the data at your disposal to show Google Ads what a good lead looks like for you, for your business, so that you can minimize the amount of junk that comes through. So there's a bunch of stuff that he's going to be talking to us about, and also a couple of things that he's going to be showing us. I hope you enjoy today's episode. Chris, welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on, and I'm super excited to have you on as a career lead gen marketer myself.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. I'm excited to share some of this. It was originally inspired by Ed, actually, just a conversation a while back, just kind of, hey, this is where your agency should be going. This is where it's going with AI and automation, and just maybe that must have been a year ago, but kind of took that and ran with it. It was a bunch of agency owners and career PPC professionals, people that are 15, 20 years of experience. The conversation came up there in a group, and we were just saying like, yeah, this we really need to go this direction. So I went all in with my agency on this, and now it's just like, okay, this is what we have to do moving forward. Just running ads isn't enough. Kind of like the landing page thing. At first, like, oh, we're going to charge for it, and upsell is like, no, 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 you have to build landing pages if you're running PPC services. So now it's like, I think you have to, and a lot of people in the industry think you have to track all the lead quality and feed it back into all this automated bidding, or you're going to feed it hundreds of calls of job seekers and spams and solicitors, and Google's getting bad data, and it's going to get you more of that, or Facebook or whatever. So you have to feed the algorithm to make this automated stuff work.
And it was probably over a year ago, Chris. So Chris has been on the channel before, but this is the official podcast, Chris. So you've been promoted.
Yeah.
Number 5, episode 5.
Yeah, it's the same really good content. Just keep rebranding it and redoing it. Ed's the go-to, and whatever his current project is, it's like, yeah, I'm all about that. Now we got the podcast that's going up and following the YouTube, your other communities for a while. Yeah, and just keep contributing to the community.
Yeah, you made a really good point, Chris, about the scope of Google Ads changing and how this is becoming something that's part of the work that Google Ads specialists and paid media specialists do. A lot of people talk about, okay, we need to feed data back in and stuff like that, but not enough people get into the specifics of how that works. So I know you've got a couple of slides and you have a couple of things you want to talk about. So let's start with your recommendations. What are the tactical application-based recommendations that you have for anybody who's doing lead gen Google Ads?
Got an actual show and tell on a podcast. This is going to be amazing for the non-podcast listeners.
Okay, so I have this chart here that ChatGPT graphics made, not a graphics person. So anyone listening, it just has 3 steps, and this is on our website, and it's extremely simple to pitch to potential clients, existing clients, or just a summary. Now ad agencies, it's 1, ad management, 2, lead tracking, which I have broken down into call tracking and form tracking, and then 3, lead quality and profit tracking from the ads. And that all circles back. I'll probably draw an arrow on this later for the graphics, but you run the ads, you track all the leads, and then you track the lead quality, and then feed it all the way back to the ads. So that's my super fancy graph there. But I think that's the shift now, where before you used to run ads and you do the conversion tracking or pixel tracking. That was a standard, but that's kind of where it ended. And then call tracking was, well, it's not that new. But I mean, I've been in it for 16 years, so I don't know, maybe that's 8 or 9 years old. You just track, did you get a call, or Google had one, and there was third party one. Now it's you have to track the quality, because it's bombarded with job seekers and spam calls and solicitations and 2-second calls that are instant hangups. I don't know if those are bots, but now you have so much feeding back into the algorithm. You can't have it um, go and get more of those. You get 10 2-second calls in one day. Google said, "Oh, this is good. Put more money into that search term, or put more money into search partners. It's great. Look at all these phone calls." But if you go back and say, "Well, these are instant hangups, or these are the wrong company," you have to track that lead quality and feed it back into um, Google ads, Meta ads. I almost said Facebook ads. Been doing it too long. Microsoft ads or Bing ads, old school, what we call it. You have to feed it back into. So much is shifting to automated bidding. It's like, well, what were the leads good or bad? You have to tell the system because it doesn't know.
Can I ask what tools you? I mean, this is no obviously any tools we mentioned we're not affiliated with or anything, but what are you using to track these things? Are you what converts, for example, or
That's a good one. I mean, Go High Level is a really easy one, kind of
yeah,
industry standard. I actually like call tracking metrics better than their call tracking that's built in. That's just kind of a preference. We've used that forever. Some people like call rail, and there's 10 other variations of it. You just need something that can track the calls and connect back to Google Analytics, Google Ads, Facebook, Microsoft Ads. They have the import, the offline conversion. So most of that will natively integrate, or you can do Zapier to connect it, or some of them we had to hire an API programmer. They just wouldn't connect, so we manually did something to go all the way to a CRM of some form of call tracking, saying, okay, we need a good call, which I'll get to what's a good call. It's marked as a good call in one system. We need to go all the way back to Google Analytics, Google Ads, Meta, whatever that takes. Some of them you click, it's connected. Like I said, the other one we had to hire an API programmer. It was a huge hassle, but we need that good qualified lead to go back into the ad system so it
yeah,
understands.
and that's the ultimate purpose of all of this. It's to feed the good leads into Google Ads, so you know where
Yeah.
to put your money, which is now more and more of the optimization is not being over finicky about all the little details and actually getting quality data in your first party data and getting budget into what drives those quality leads. That's a much bigger lever than fiddling around for weeks on end inside the ads account. Unless the ads account's crap. I always have to caveat that if you've got a really bad ad account, then tweak it. But if it's stable and doing its job, this is the next level. You've got to bolt it on top.
Yeah, definitely. And this is coming up more and more in the industry. I mean, we originally talked about it a year ago, other agencies
Yep.
talking about it. I think this is what, and this is where Google pushes a lot of garbage that doesn't make any sense, and Meta and Microsoft are following suit. They have reps now that call you, which everyone's really excited about, and pushing the same crap. And it's like, if you can take their suggestions but put common sense and third party tracking and all this other stuff on top of it, for example, automated bidding with broad match. If you're doing all of this, we have seen it work very well, and the CPA is much lower, the CPC is much lower. If you do all of this, if you do it straight out of the box with Google, automated bidding, broad match, and their basic conversion tracking, it'll run it into the ground. But if you're tracking minimum call length, or you make your form a lot longer, or your CRM is feeding bad lead, good lead, or sorry, only good lead back into Google, then yes, that can work. So Google's pushing that anyway, but as PPC professionals, we always have to come back and say, okay, I'm going to take Google's suggestion, but modify it a bunch with guardrails and our own customization and common sense. And then
Yep.
yes, I'll do some broad match.
And just for because obviously there's lots of different levels of experience that listen to these videos. Just for clarification, that data coming back in, that good data, it's marked as a conversion, isn't it? So you're essentially, are you still tracking the original Google Ads conversion of a form fill, a call, and you're adding this qualified lead on top,
Yeah.
or are you only now bidding against the qualified lead? I guess it depends on the size of the account.
It depends. With calls, it's a standard. We make them a minimum, and that depends on the industry. I mean, a lot of companies will say, "Oh, a 10-minute call." It's like not necessarily. I mean, you could do 1 minute, you can do 2 minutes. We work with a lot of home services. You could book a plumber in 2 minutes. It's, this thing's broken. Can you be here today? Yes, we'll see you at 2. I mean, you just want some kind of threshold. Say, if a call is under 2 minutes, don't even track it as a conversion at all. And Google has that built in. Their calls from ads, their default actually has a time on it. You could put it's in seconds. So 60 seconds, 120 seconds. And then if
Yeah,
you're using call tracking, do the same thing. Say 2 minutes or don't even count it in the Google dashboard at all.
yeah, and again, caveat that listen to your own call logs and see how long your minimum should be, because there are some people like me who are really impatient and ring up and go, "Can you do this? How much? Tomorrow? Good, bye."
Yeah.
And qualified lead, but I don't like to sit on the phone for too long.
Yeah, I'll usually do 1 minute as a minimum, so that'll kind of,
Yeah,
oh, are you hiring right now? Or, just a total spam bot call. Those are 5 and 10 seconds. So it's like, okay, let's just say 1 minute. So we at least get rid of the worst of the worst, so we're not feeding the algorithm, bad
yeah.
data.
Not a lot of good can happen in under a minute. Well,
Not
there are
really.
exceptions. I mean, again, going back to dating, but moving on. Ashwin, you've got some
Yeah.
actual questions that I've interrupted.
So I wanted to touch on one thing. Chris used the word hassle to describe like bringing in an API developer to do the initial legwork. I know business owners, CMOs, people leading marketing teams for businesses and brands, you might be listening to this, or you might even just experience that firsthand, and you might say, oh, we'll just take the shortcut. We'll do Google Ads and we'll manage without it. I can tell you, as somebody who has led marketing teams and who's made the mistake of saying, well, let's just take the shortcut, it's not going to work for you. And this was like 2.5, 3 years ago. A year from now, today, it doesn't fly. So if you think bringing an API developer, doing all the work to set up the connection between Google Ads and your CRM or whatever other database, if you think that's a hassle, wait until you burn thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of dollars on Google Ads, and it just keeps bringing you more spam, more junk, and thinks that it's doing a good job. And then on top of that, as it brings this junk in, not only are you burning cash, you're setting the account up for long-term failure because you're teaching Google that this is what works. And then Google's out thinking it's doing a good job for you. And the amount of work you then have to do to undo that teaching and learning is even more painful. And many times you can't undo it.
Yeah, that's a really good point. That, for example, you set up a conversion incorrectly, and every single click that comes through is classed as a conversion, a primary conversion. Then you're essentially telling that account's building a foundation on noise and nonsense. And
Yeah.
it's true for leads as well. It's like not every lead is a lead. And if you've got a particularly busy account, you're getting hundreds of leads conversions a month, then if you're only converting 20% of them and only a third of them are actually qualified, all that other data is false signal to the bidding system. And also, the API thing, Ashwin, I built not specifically for Google Ads, but I used Manus, again, I'm not affiliated, the AI tool to program a mini connector between two APIs, and it worked. So you might not to do people out of a job, you might even be able to use AI to do that work that Chris previously had to hire for and isn't dealing with people so painful. Why don't you just log onto an AI and ask that to do it? There's no HR. Run it 24/7. Doesn't get sick. But yeah, that's the
You could
future.
theoretically start today and be done by the end of the week.
It took me 2 hours. Literally, I
Yeah.
had the thought and I got it done. And it isn't Google Ads related, but it is APIs. And it works. And it's just like, wow, I would have been on Fiverr for a week trying to find the right person to do that.
Yeah.
Scary.
Yeah. And noise, speaking of signal and noise, I can't believe we have to say this in 2025. And I'm talking to business owners and it shouldn't involve CMOs, but talking to business owners who don't know better, but also unscrupulous media agencies. If you're using conversions like page views and button clicks, you're just, I don't know, like you don't have a future in Google Ads, not a successful one. So like in addition to tracking the right types of leads, like make sure fundamentally your conversion actions are things that actually matter to the business, that show some kind of interest.
Yeah, and I still see that auditing accounts, you say viewed the contact us page. It's like
Yeah, oh my
that's
God.
not a lead. Or get directions, which is the default that Google will throw in there if you do smart campaigns, which just for beginners, just don't ever do a smart campaign. It's garbage. It has pretty much no controls. If you're gonna do $5 a day and never look at it, a very, very small local shop, that's fine. It's better than absolutely nothing. But anything beyond that, just don't do a smart campaign because that's one of the one it defaults get directions. It's counted, and we see people they'll count all of it and say, well, look, we got 50 conversions. It's like, well, 49 of those are get directions, and you're a plumber. Are people really showing up to your shop? It's no, that doesn't even make sense. That doesn't sound real that people click get directions to somewhere without a physical location or not one that serves clients. It's just an address.
Remember to smile. Oh, not meant to read that bit. Anyway, head over to edleak.com, stick your email in. I'll send you freebies every 2 days. So that's the call to action. Go do it. I promise you'll get value. If you don't, just bloody subscribe. But the thing is, you'll get lots of freebies and stuff. edleak.com, stick your email in, and away we go. We'll be internet friends forever until you unsubscribe. Or if you don't buy anything from me, then we're not going to be friends, are we? I'm making me friends. Cheers.
Beginner to and veterans, people, with brand new accounts, it's like, well, how do I train it? How do I get into it? This just came up the other day. I still think for brand new accounts, do manual bidding at first. Google's advice, one of the only things I agree with, probably their documentation. It's usually 30 conversions in 30 days to make the automation work. You can start automated bidding immediately if it's a much older account. It's a couple years old and you're launching a new campaign. But I still think brand new, out of the gate, small, medium budget, you just don't have enough money to burn through a couple $1,000s to help Google learn. You can launch with manual bidding and manually train the algorithm, kind of this bid works, this keyword, kind of move it up and down and change it. And then later, maybe 2 months, maybe 6 months with phrase and exact match with manual bidding, you're going to train it because it does need a ton of conversions for automation to work. If you're a really small shop with 10 or 15 conversions a month, maximize conversions won't work. It will take a really long time and it will burn your budget. Most small and medium companies, $2,000 with zero conversions, they can't say, oh, well, the algorithm's just learning. Let's give it a few more months. They already paused it. They shut it down. They said Google Ads doesn't work. Agency or freelancer, you're fired. In-house team, turn off Google. It doesn't work. So I just wanted to put that this is a little bit separate from it, just from the bidding. I think you can go manual for a while before you can really, for small and mid-sized budgets, 1,000 to 3,000 a month kind of thing.
Agreed.
You don't have
Yeah.
enough money.
Yeah, agreed. Still start on manual. There's nothing wrong with manual, just to get your foundation in, get your footing in. The 30 and 30 days, it does depend on industry, but
It's a little
it
flexible, yeah, but just
yeah,
kind of a
it can work
general
on
rule.
15 conversions. It gets very spot. It depends. Again, this is the problem. It depends. It depends how spotty those conversions are. If you've got 5 campaigns on a small budget and one of them gets a conversion a month, that's where you're creating a problem for yourself. You're better off focusing on the campaign that's converting, sticking all your budget in that, and just getting a better conversion value out of that one, and just prioritizing it. And it might be a certain region, it might be a certain service. And I know some businesses don't like that because they're like, well, I do these 3 things and I want all 3 things. It's like, well, okay. But if we can maximize that one service first in this area, it's still business. Is that all right? And it's like, yeah, but I'm missing out on business in that area. It's like, well, okay, but you don't have the budget. So
You have to have the budget.
yeah,
And I think that's where Google breaks, and their advice in the account or the advice from Google Reps is kind of like, hey, you have $1,000 a month. The average cost per click is $10. Yeah, that will definitely work. Just launch a brand new campaign, maximize conversions, and the algorithm will figure it out. It's like it most likely won't. It will spend about $1,000, get one or two conversions, maybe, and then this whole system breaks. It's like, okay, check all your calls and then go to your CRM and use an API. It's like there's not even enough data to do anything with that. You're not going to analyze two or three leads. So I just wanted to preface that, and some of them, well, I have it in some later slides. But if you're a very small shop, just bring it down to Excel. Look at your 10 leads. Were they good or were they bad? Where did they come from? And you could manually look at it. This is when you're feeding in APIs and algorithms and all that. We're talking, at least 5,000 a month. If not, we get into 30, 50,000 a month. This is all automated. It's feeding algorithms for people that are in-house or freelancer or running it yourself, and you've got $500. You'll have to do it manually and just look at one thing to another. That none of Sorry, but I mean none of this really applies. Just look at your CRM and listen to your phone calls manually, and then eventually you could work up to all this automated data and AI stuff.
and yet your CRM could be a spreadsheet. It could be as simple as a Zapier pulling in the
Yeah,
data and you literally have a drop down of good or bad, and that gets sent back to Google Ads as offline data. Like
yeah, you could do
don't
that.
overthink it unless you're spending a lot of money. Like it's a sheet is okay. If you do it once a week, checking a sheet, and it takes you 5 minutes to say if it's a qualified lead or not, that's a good enough CRM to improve your performance.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that for small budgets, you could do a lot of this manually, and that's fine too. Larger budgets, yeah, this is where you can test broad match and kind of test different related terms in a different test campaign, or broad match now. It takes into consideration the other keywords in the same ad group to help kind of keep it in check a little bit more. It still shows for some random stuff, but the newer things supposedly looks at, intent and past searches and other keywords that are in the ad group to kind of put some guardrails on there. It's still not the best, but you can, with larger budgets, say, okay, let's do maximize conversions or target CPA. Let's try a handful of broad match, see what comes back. And then that's when you go look at your calls, the length of them, how many changed, or the forms coming in, how many of them are good or bad leads. That's when it's say, okay, I will test what Google says. Can't believe I said that. But I mean, sometimes you're forced to. I think a lot of this stuff it'll just keep changing and changing, and you have to figure out how to make automation and all this AI stuff work. You can't just say, no, I'm doing manual bidding and SCAGs, which are single keyword ad groups. They're dead. Don't ever use them, by the way. You can't just stick to that and not adjust. You're forced to.
And one thing as well, speaking of trusting Google, not implicitly, but and touching on this with setup and bidding, if you get a sufficient amount of data where Google has a level of confidence about you moving to smart bidding from manual bidding or automated bidding, whatever we want to call it, from manual, it will actually bring that up as a recommendation, and it will give you a suggested target cost per conversion because we're talking about local service.
Yeah.
So it will tell you when it thinks it's ready and also what it thinks it can achieve. And that suggestion is probably one of the better ones that Google gives you because it's normally about in the ballpark. So, and I've seen that in smaller accounts where you're like, oh, I can't use automated bidding. But Google will literally say, you know what, I can do it for this account. But again, you've got to make sure that conversion data is solid for it to work. But that is one recommendation that's actually quite useful for a young or a smaller account to take it to the next level away from manual bidding.
Yeah, which I'm glad they put that in there because
Yeah.
90% of them you hit dismiss. That one, it'll say, you should switch to and maximize conversions with the target CPA of $47. It's like, well, that's very specific. And you look
Yeah.
at it, it's like my average is about 40 to 50. It's like, Okay, you know what, I will. And it gives you that, don't do $5, don't do no target CPA, don't do 100. It's like we think we can get 47 or some very specific number, and you put that, and it does. So that's actually a very good Google pop-up, one
Yeah.
of the few that's, like you said, it'll tell you when you're ready to switch. Which ironically, switching you have to start the campaign or set it all up as paused and then go back in the settings. During the setup, it forces you to maximize conversions, maximize clicks, and then you have to later change the settings, which I still say do because maximize conversions with no data doesn't make any sense.
Scary.
So going into non-search, again, there's no graphs on the chart or anything. I'm just reading off of it to keep me in check. So when you want to look at should I test display or YouTube, Performance Max, Demand Gen, I think with a larger budget, you can go beyond the most obvious bottom of the funnel keywords. I think you're going to really max out your search for a while with going with very specific terms, bottom of the funnel, and then maybe middle and top of the funnel, broader terms. And then I think this is a much later choice where you're like, okay, I'm going to do some YouTube now or something like that. And with these, it's critical, especially with Performance Max, to set the minimum call length 2 or 3 minutes or something like that, and then evaluate all the forms, everything that's coming through. Or if it's SaaS, how many free trials actually upgrade and don't just disappear, or how many demos from a salesperson turn into a sale. Evaluating all the lead quality, then yeah, we run tons of display in YouTube. Um, I'd say those. Occasionally Performance Max and Demand Gen, but yeah, tons of them. In-market audiences, custom audiences, they work great with automated bidding, with feeding all the data back into it for lead quality. We have plenty of display in YouTube that get tons of great leads, expanding beyond search.
Just pause that thought a
Yeah.
second. My chickens are going fucking mental.
He means actual chickens.
Oh yeah, I think I saw a picture.
I like what you. I don't disagree with the idea of using paid search to address some of those upper funnel and middle funnel um, searches and queries. I know when we talk about lead gen, we tend to focus more on like the services and stuff like that, but lead gen being such a broad category or bucket. If you're doing something like SaaS where there's a lot of informational search, or even where there's overlap with DIY stuff, like if you do really high-end audio setups, there's a lot of people looking for how to do their own type of audio setup, right? Like a home studio, whatever it might be. You want to make sure that you're very clear about not just the intent, but even the conversions that come through. Um, you don't want people downloading an ebook or a resource to get fed back in as, yeah, that's the type of action that we want, just because there's absolutely no correlation between whether somebody wants an ebook and whether they want to subscribe to your service or hire you for a high-end service or whatever else it is. So that's one thing that I would caveat. If you are doing some of the upper funnel stuff, like really be dialed into search intent, whether it's informational, whether there's any like scope for a transactional event in the future, because many times it will just be informational and end over there. Um, but if you're tracking enough in your CRM, you or whatever database, you should be able to find those leads that eventually did go on to become, have some monetary value.
Yeah, and I think that's a big budget thing for sure. There's not necessarily a right way and a wrong way. It
Yeah,
depends. That's what
yeah,
SEOs say. That's what PPC say. It depends. I think that's a good, very large budget, large company. You mentioned high-end audio stuff, and it can be a DIY, a guide, a video that's actually a really good step-by-step ebook, and then you drop them in your CRM. They get an email once a week. Here's a coupon. We're doing a Black Friday deal, um, half off this week only, and see, okay, those people that downloaded, we just told them how to do everything. 6 months later, are they buying? I think small companies doing that, that's a terrible idea because it's a very
Yeah.
long-term branded play, and you need a different type of professional, or if you want to try to do it yourself, to set up this really long email funnel, with webinars and samples and other books and Black Friday come back, the person that downloaded it a year ago. It's a good plan, but it has to be the right type of large company with a large budget that can do that for
I,
that
th- I
long,
think
spend that much
I
for
think
Yeah.
that
it's a
long.
distraction as well to smaller advertisers and smaller, I'd say, any local service, because unless you're at a point where um, you can't spend any more money on Google Ads. You're doing that well. You're getting enough leads, qualified leads, and you cannot spend any more budget. You try to allocate it, and it's just not enough search volume. Then you might consider going down the content route. And I know service-based businesses that have done it before, but it does become a distraction, particularly for the business owner, and it becomes something about how many conversions of the PDF are we getting, and how does that look down the pipeline, and it adds a whole another layer of tracking and information, and we know how fallible tracking is these days. So it just adds so much complexity, and it's just like, look, if you can't maximize your Google ads because you've got other problems, fix them before you start getting fancy. And it comes down to PMax as well. It's like, can you use PMax for lead gen? Yeah, but don't start with it. Use it as
No.
an expansion tactic. If you flat out on search and you're like, I want more, or the client says I want more, or the business owner, or whatever, it's like, okay, we'll put 10-20% into PMax of the budget and see what happens. But that's where lead qualifying is really important, because PMax is a bit of a hot potato when it comes to lead quality at times.
Yeah, and you have a PMax video that explains this, kind of plugging your channel. Go watch here. I'm kidding. There's no box, or maybe you can
Is
put a
it still a
box in after that.
suggestion box?
It's here.
That's it.
There,
Point.
there. I don't know. I don't know. YouTube. Ashwin can do that. But no, you have the PMax one, and it is talking about this. Go to your CRM, and you need to feed it quality leads, and not how many demos turned into a sale or
Mhm.
appointments or whatever it is. You have to feed that back to Performance Max. Otherwise, you're going to get hundreds and hundreds of, it's just numbers and letters and fake numbers. I don't know, or fake phone numbers. I don't know why Performance Max gets bombarded with spam. It just does. And phone calls, put them at 5 minutes long, and then put your CRM, make the form longer, or tag it. Was it good? Was it bad? That has to go to Performance Max, or don't even run it. Whereas you have a little more wiggle room in the other ones. Performance Max is just, it's notorious for getting spam. So if you don't have all this connected and your APIs and all that, don't even waste the money. And your video covered that for like an hour. The other one,
Yeah,
the Performance Max, feeding data back
yeah, and
into it.
if you really, really want to try and control Pmax, Performance Max, and you can handle the call volume, then just only track calls as a primary conversion, and don't even consider the form completions. But that requires
Yeah.
a bit more tinkering, and for the business to be able to take the calls and not be too fussed about the lead forms. But yeah, the amount of crap that Pmax can attract. Pmax is brilliant at filling in forms, is what I like to think. There's probably some kind of
Yeah.
AI behind Pmax that goes, right, he's had 272 clicks, time for a nice form completion. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah,
When we used it, about I used it about 2.5, 3 years ago. It was still like right at the moment where it became publicly available. I called it and this was for SaaS. I called it the world's best data entry employee, because you could be 100% sure it would fill out every single field, and you get variety, but there was no quality to speak of. It has become better now, but it just requires so many guardrails. It's like, unless you, like Ed said, unless you fully tapped out search, and even before PMax for Legion, I would go to YouTube. Um,
Yeah.
it just it's
or Facebook.
it's not there yet for Legion. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd go to
Yeah.
Facebook. I'd even go to TikTok if it's more of a entertainment consumer. I mean, that's younger people.
Mm.
It's fun products. It's not B2B, but if it's the right type of product or, well, I guess that's more so
And
product.
Bing.
I don't really want to mention that too much there. Fitness. I guess fitness could be that. That could be a lead gen thing for TikTok. But yeah, Facebook still some B2B lead gen. Yeah, don't forget about Bing. Microsoft Ads, it's cheaper. There's barely anybody on it. It's exactly the same as Google Search. You just kind of import it and then optimize it from there, for sure. But yeah, I would go to sorry, just jump around the slides here. No, it doesn't matter where it was. And talking about expanding beyond search. Oh, there it was. I did find the right one. Uh, going beyond search, yeah, we have YouTube, which YouTube they kind of shoved it into demand gen. If you're doing the maximized conversions for YouTube, it's now technically a demand gen. But demand gen lets you check where is it showing, and you could say YouTube only. So it's the same thing. It just looks different, and we have that maximize conversions for leads. You have all your tracking in place, and it's great for software or home services like remodeling, where it's or a pool builder where you shop for a very long time and you look at a lot of different platforms for picking stuff. Yeah, you can definitely do lead gen with YouTube, and you don't even need a professionally made video. You can use the cheesy one that's built into YouTube itself, or Google Ads or Canva, or you can outsource it anywhere from 500 to 10,000 if you want a really good professional commercial. Or a lot of people have a commercial. It's like, go get the file. Take that same commercial that's on TV, or streaming ads are very popular now. Go grab that, throw it on YouTube, and it usually does very well, even with automation, if you're feeding back good and bad leads
I
to it.
know
Data on that.
a pool company who literally bought a cheap DJI drone for this. I think it was 300 quid, $300 or whatever. And literally to create their YouTube ads, they fly the drone over the house and do low shots of the pool and stuff like that. The different jobs they did, and when they had enough, they literally got a narrator and just used that as B-roll, and it worked. It worked really like it just because it's just showing off the pool. And of course, some of these houses are quite nice and large and palatial, and they're aspirational. And it's like, well, I want a pool, so my neighbours can see me bathing in it and know how much money I've got. That's why I've got a stream in my garden.
Those drone shots, everybody's using those. Those are huge in real estate, remodeling, roofers. Everyone's using those. It's like you probably have it lying around somewhere anyway. Smash it together or get a freelancer to do it. I think people are scared of YouTube. It's like, well, I don't have this professionally made video where there's multiple cameras walking around my office and interviewing the owner with all the lighting. It's like if you want to, you can, but I mean, we've made stuff in Canva and just thrown it together. It has templates. AI sometimes makes good videos. I mean, you don't necessarily need a big budget to do it. These slideshow things work well if you can't get a professionally made video done.
Yeah, and sometimes the lower production value stuff works better because it feels realer and less polished, and you're as a viewer and a potential customer, you feel less like you're being pitched to and more like, hey, just look at this stuff that we did.
Essentially, like my
Yeah,
work.
the owner with the phone. Yeah. It just the owner with the phone. I don't know who's coaching that, but that's been the thing for years. I don't think you should pull over and record it in your car. I don't know why that's a thing, but the ones where they're actually, I've seen it, talking about pool builders. The owner will just walk around and talk about the project. Here's this pool we put in. It looks great, and they're just walking around with it. They go back to them. They go back to the pool. It's like if you're looking at a pool, you don't necessarily need a drone shot. You can say, "Wow, that looks really good." And Ashwin, you were saying it people won't hit skip immediately because they're like, this is a
Mm.
YouTube video. It's like, wait, no, 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 it's not. Oh, wait, okay, there's a skip button. What am I watching? It takes them, 1 minute in, like, oh, this was an ad. Okay, whoops. So same thing with Facebook. There's the UGC content, which is user generated content. You either it's literally that, or you mimic it. You make it look like someone's unboxing it or trying it or saying, I tried this product and I loved it. And whether that's paid or it's a real testimonial, those unpolished videos a lot of times will do better because people will watch the whole thing not realizing it's an ad, or they're on YouTube or Facebook or Instagram or whatever. So yeah, we mentioned about some leads are higher quality than others, or a phone call, or an appointment, or downloading a free ebook. You can use lead values, and they could all be marked as primary. When you're setting up, it's primary or secondary. Primary is feeding the bidding, and this is done when you set it up. It's the checkboxes at the top. I don't have a screenshot for that, but primary, you're telling it get more of these. Secondary, it will show, but you have to dig it up. You're not feeding the algorithm get more of these. So when you put in lead values, that's when you're saying, well, phone calls are good, but appointments are better. That's where, now here's a screenshot. It shows the event type, what the name is. There it is. Okay, action optimization, primary action. And you could put in, use the same value for each conversion. You say an appointment, that's 100. You're just coming up with a static number or a ballpark based on what your leads are worth. And maybe a phone call, you can put in 20, saying a lot of those are questions, they're price shoppers, they're not very good. So $20 as a primary conversion for a phone call, $100 for an appointment, for a demo, or whatever your higher quality one is, and maybe $2 for an ebook download. Those are still good. And if you have something like that or some other type of download, or join our newsletter, $1. So you're telling Google these aren't that valuable. 100 or 200, some very high number, saying get more of these. And then you could say maximize conversion value bidding, which a lot of people think that's reserved for e-commerce. You can do that with leads if you assign a value to all the leads. And then that's when it really takes off with a much higher budget and a lot of conversions. You're telling it this is the most important, the most valuable lead. These other leads are okay, but I'm telling you they're not nearly as valuable to us. So that's a huge one to train it.
But
Small budgets. Sorry,
you
guys.
can only, Chris, you can only do that if you, again, qualify leads, use your own first party data, pulling back into Google Ads, because you can't, uh, tell me if I'm wrong. I mean, you can do it, but I don't think you should set a generic value for Google Ads conversions. Is this, in your example, is this an offline conversion, i.e., a qualified? You said it's an appointment, so let's call it an
Yeah,
actual.
an appointment. Let's say you'd set it for that, and then you have the form that's booked as an appointment, connected maybe to Calendly or something like that. It's an actual person that booked an appointment in person for something locally, or a demo for SaaS. They're like, yes, I want to talk to a salesperson. Walk me through your entire software. I'm interested in buying it. Whereas, the ebook or the demo or free trial, you can feed it back and saying that's not nearly as valuable. And in your CRM, I don't have a screenshot of this because there's hundreds of CRMs, but they all have pretty much a status. It will flip to something. There's, closed a deal, or became a sale, or qualified lead. Anything will connect to, if the status flipped to qualified lead or sale, then you trigger, it goes, and Zapier can do this. Most of them are direct. Say, give me active campaign. Salesforce is direct. A lot of them will just connect it. If a lead flipped to a sale or a qualified lead, trigger a Google Analytics goal, or sorry, key event, and it'll trigger. I'll jump to that slide. So you can say send it all the way back. And all these call tracking metrics does it. First time caller, repeat caller, like Workies is a home service one. There's Service Titan. They all have their very specific CRMs, or even HubSpot. That's a direct, and it'll go straight to Google Analytics, saying if a lead turns into a client, that it's just something that HubSpot does. You can flip it, say, send it to Google Analytics as a client or a sale, and then it'll pop up. These are key events. It just sends it over, and you say, okay, there it is, activity sale, first time, meaning not a repeat, like a activity sale first time. It fed it over that. Take that exact same thing and throw it over to Google Ads. Facebook ads is something similar, offline conversion. So Most of this connects, it's just built in. Zapier has a lot of connections. Just type it in. Like I use ActiveCampaign. I'm trying to connect it to Google Analytics. They have a click, click, click. There you go. All of a sudden, the key event is in there, and then connect your Google Ads and your Google Analytics. Just the basic feed the two together. When there isn't, you click a couple of buttons. Yes, you have to hire an API person and make this software talk to that software. But the majority of them, especially Zapier, you're saying, I'm using ActiveCampaign. I want it to connect to Google Analytics. And as what do you want to do? That's a really good one for non-programmers. Most of them are already built in to where when a lead turns into a sale or a customer or whatever, it's just in Google Analytics. And there you go. It's ready to go.
Yeah, and another tip as well, Google Sheets. So if Zapier or whatever APIs don't talk, Google supports Google Sheets. Sorry, Google Ads supports Sheets.
Yeah.
So if you can get the data to a sheet, you can normally get it back into Ads as well. So is your ultimate goal here, when you've got this data coming into either Google Ads or Analytics, is that to pull in, for example, the Analytics Ads primary conversions? And let's use an example where there might be a lead form here and then a qualified lead, whatever they may be. Would you then not bid against Google Ads lead conversion, or would you just give that a lower value?
It depends on the volume. Usually a lower value, and your numbers are going to be a little bit off, but this is higher budgets and things like that. Here's how many leads, here's how many qualified leads. And you can split that out when you do the segment conversion name inside of Google Ads. It doesn't just give you, 100 conversions. It'll show you the names of each conversion. And tracking software will do this too. Reporting software, or you could just break it out and you see here's how many leads, here's how many qualified leads. If you're having a lot of issues with lead quality, that's when you can say, okay, only qualified leads. Don't even bring it into Google Ads if it's not a qualified lead, and then that'll fix that. Or don't even bring it in if the phone call is over under 2 minutes, and you could just instantly block it out. You can bring in both to just look at the two, or you can just say qualified only, or don't even show it in conversions at all. So that would be how you connect everything. I put in manually. This is call tracking metrics. It has a little button in there, or you can use Excel. Was it a good call? Was it a bad call? How long was it? It has a little star rating. It was spam. You could mark this all. It showed where the call came from. You don't necessarily need all this enterprise level software. You can just mark it. That was a lead. That was a lead, or a qualified lead. That's an existing customer. You can just click on these phone calls in most of the systems or Google Sheets if you don't have the bigger budgets. But I mean, tracking everything automatically would be ideal. And then it just most of these systems will connect if you just dig into the integrations button, and you'll see it'll just pop up in Google Analytics, and you could track whatever you want and then feed it back in and say, I want to do qualified leads only, or I want leads and qualified leads to evaluate the two. And then your ads will perform much, much better because you're not just counting literally every single phone call or form fill that comes in, which will, break your ads pretty quick.
Yeah, and I think there's a major value add that us agencies and freelancers can do is that if the client's too busy, if they're a small business and they're too busy to qualify all this, we do it for them using AI automation, literally manually listening to the calls, checking the form completions and going in there and tackling it, or outsourcing it to someone else to do for you, like a VA or whatever. It's such a major value add if the client is busy and struggling to do it, because it
And
improves your performance ultimately.
And that's where it's going in the next year. This higher level with automation, with feeding it back in, with every platform forcing you to do auto bidding and all this. I think that's where the future of it. And
Yeah,
people can use AI. It's not going to replace their job. It's like, hey, AI, go look at all these calls and see which good or which aren't. And they could listen to the transcripts and read them. Are they good? Are they bad? Did they book it? Was it a sale? And then it could go all the way back. I think that's really the future. Use all of this with AI, and the platforms are forcing you a certain direction. Get more data, feed it back in so that automated bidding and things like this can work because they're forcing us into it. We just have to adjust to make it work. The extra value add that agencies or freelancers, or if you're in-house and this is your job, getting all this data and looking at the leads, kind of taking it to that next level, there's so many things the company can do. And these are all specific examples we've used with our clients. The first one, you can use the call data for hiring and expansion decisions. We had one, it was a very large company. We're bringing in a ton of calls. This was a home service. And they kept saying, we're getting a lot of calls, but we're not getting a lot of appointments. The leads are no good. They're not turning into appointments. Like, well, what do you mean? I'm looking at search terms and ads and, kind of what's the problem? Looking at everything inside of Google Ads, but jumping inside of call tracking metrics or call rail, whatever you use. Um, Looking at the calls, we started listening to them because they're all recorded, and we found that what kept happening, there were good leads like, hey, we need a repair. Can you come out today? It's like we could be at the earliest we could be out there is 2 weeks. So people say, I can't wait that long and hang up and just call after call after call. So we found out there's nothing wrong with Google Ads. The problem is, and the leads aren't trash, it's none of that. The problem is you don't have enough people. Your call service tells everyone 2 weeks out and everyone hangs up. That doesn't work. So they use that to hire people. So that's a really good example. It's like the leads aren't bad. If you have the offline data, you can see you just need to hire more people. That's why your phone calls aren't turning into more booked jobs for you.
Yeah,
And
that's a very
then
good point. And I
uh,
mean, you could be strategic with that, Chris, as well. You could on the, I know it's a phone call, but if it was a form, you could ask a leading question, like when do you need this to maybe not even bring. It sounds really crappy though, doesn't it? But essentially, people are wasting the time of the administrative staff who can't help them because there's no free calendar slots. So you kind of don't want people contacting you. So having some kind of conversion tracking for people that to segment these people that are looking for immediate assistance, i.e., today, and then, I mean, really, you need to remove them from the bidding in a way, unless this company then fixes the problem. But this is obviously a bigger company problem because
yeah,
we're talking about volume here. So again, we're getting a bit more nuanced, but sometimes you sort of have to filter this stuff out or push people away and say it's not for you. Don't even waste your time or hours getting in touch, even though you've paid for the click. And I know it might sound counterintuitive, but uh, yeah,
yeah, and we had another one with a small client that we looked at. It tracks ring time too, and the ring time was about a minute to a minute and a half. And they're saying, I'm not getting any calls. It's like you take forever to answer your phone because it's a small company, where the owner answers the phone or they're not near it, they're not in the office, it's a voicemail, and people kept hanging up. It's like, I see you're getting calls. I see them in Google. Why are you not getting any more customers out of it? So that's the kind of talk for a small company. You need to hire someone,
yeah.
or there's answering services, and they're anywhere from $100 to $1,000 a month, depending on volume. If you're spending 2,000 a month on Google Ads or whatever it is, you can pay 200 a month to get one of those answering services, and you give them a script they write, or maybe they just transfer. They say, "Okay, thanks for calling. Yeah, please hold." Even that alone, so that the owner, they're away from their desk, or a lot of home services, they're literally on a job, they don't pick up their phone. That can't be the same phone that your ads go to, or otherwise
No,
it will fail.
at 100%. And this is the experience. In fact, I remember operating before call tracking, and when we first installed call tracking for a number of service, I remember it was an event hire company and a plumbing company, and listening to the calls, I was just like, how the hell are these people getting work? One of them, and I hope they never listen to these videos, but because they probably know who I'm talking about. But one of the event hire company, his wife, so it was a husband and wife team, and the wife would answer the phone, and she was not very patient, and I was just like, good God. So they were
Huh.
complaining about lead quality, but it was actually their quality issue, and they then outsourced it to a call handler who, even though they didn't know the business, were a bit more receptive, and it worked out. So yeah, it can be a business issue saying Google Ads doesn't work, I think is, well, it does work. It's normally,
Yeah.
if Google Ads isn't working, it's normally an issue with the business. I know that sounds a little bit harsh, but it typically is.
It usually is. And, in-house teams or people running it themselves, they have all this data. Agencies, I think they all need to have this data. This is the
Yeah.
future, because otherwise you just get fired and say, well, the leads are no
Yep.
good. It's like, I brought you a hundred a day. They say, well, they're no good. It's like, well, how are you handling them? Monitoring the call answering service or the sales team. We had another one that a lot of times for Google Ads, you show for competitors' names, they click, they call, they thought they were talking to the other competitor, and one of them, they were picking up and saying, no, 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 you've got the wrong company. Hold on, let me get you their number, and we'll call them. It's like you don't have to lie, but you could say, oh, you're calling that other plumber? Well, we're not them, but we'll beat their price. Let me connect you to one of our people, right? We could be there right now, and we could do it for cheaper. Just write down some script because or especially a salesperson, I'm looking for this software. Oh, you called the wrong company, let me connect you. It's like just transfer it, saying we're not
Yeah.
them, but let's talk. Don't Google the number of the other company, and it just they had so many of those. It's like you show for the wrong clients, the wrong companies. It's like just handle the calls better, and you can listen to them and see what's actually going on. Or like you said, they were very rude. It's like, okay, you shouldn't be answering the phone. That's why you're
It
not
sounds
getting any
obvious.
business.
But it
Yeah,
sounds obvious, but if you are not monitoring these things, you'd have no idea. And you'd be sat there churning through all the data and looking at the location reports and this, that, and the other. And, they're like,
no,
and you'd be pulling your hair out going, but surely these are good leads, And yeah, and the whole thing with competitors calling, this is why I've always been a fan of competitor campaigns in many, particularly service based, for many businesses, because if something's urgent, like plumbing or emergency, people don't care. Like if they ring up and say, "Oh, is
mm,
that Tim's plumbing?" You're like, "No, it's Tanya's." It's like, "Have you got an emergency? Is it urgent?" Yeah, I
yeah,
do. Okay, we can help. It's like if something's urgent, if they miss call or they get through to someone else, it's not normally an issue. This is true in insurance as well, where it's quite a market where most people are selling the same bloody thing. Let's face it. So people are
yeah.
price sensitive and they just want a quote. So it doesn't really matter. Some people are brand sensitive, but yeah, I mean, it's so critical. You should be monitoring your clients. Uh, like you should have internal KPIs for them as well. Like how long does it take them to answer the call? How are they qualifying the leads? What are they doing a good job? And hold them accountable. They might hate you for it. If it's a business that employs a few people, the boss will probably be very happy that you're holding them accountable because he or she are not taking the calls, so they're not to blame anyway. It's always a bit prickly when it's the business owner and you're like, dude, you need to hire for this. You're shit at it.
Yeah,
Which is,
definitely. There's a lot of those that are like that. It's like you miss so many calls and you call them back hours later, which in some businesses, if you call them back 4 hours later, they're long gone
it's
or the
gone.
next day or something.
Or the
It's
evening.
yeah,
It's like you finish your day's work, then you're like, this lead was crap. It's like you rang them at 7:45 in the evening. They've
yeah,
got 17 children. They're trying to feed them. Why are they going to take your call? You know,
yeah. Some of these just you have to look at that. Or a lot of them, I didn't get to mention it before, but forms, whether run ads 24/7 or not. And we did that. I was an attorney and saying everyone that fills out a form at 2 a.m., I call them first thing in the morning, they never pick up. And looking at that lead quality, yeah, they're cheaper, lower cost per click, lower cost per lead. It's like I never reach these people when it comes around to the morning. It's like, okay, well then that's a waste of time. Or other ones you do, and they're really cheap leads. You call them at 8 a.m., they pick up. They're like, yeah, I work late. This was the only time I had to fill out the form. I need some type of service, and that works. You have to look at it because I don't always block overnight. It's like it depends. Maybe that's
yes,
good. It's usually cheaper, or maybe it's crap. You never get a hold of them. So,
it
and
does
they know if they
depend.
call, if it's a voicemail, obviously, but do you reach them the next day? And that's what you have to look at.
Yeah, and you've got to try because it is a very much it depends. You can't say all calls are past midnight are drunks and drug addicts. You can't say that. Some people work shifts and work lates and stuff. So it depends, and you can only answer that if you actually review this stuff. It's like for some industries, prioritizing your budget for the morning is better than the afternoon because people are
Yeah.
keener in the morning. They need that service. Again, thinking urgent kind of services. And you could literally have your campaign's budget dedicated to run flat out for the first 4 or 5 hours, 6 hours of the day. And then if they run out of juice or shut them off, so be it. But you'd only know that by reviewing this data.
Yeah. Yeah, and I had another client, they were doing a voice menu tested to live answering, and it was shocking because we were getting so many calls, and it's like we're not getting appointments. What's going on? And we looked at that voice menu started, and people hated it. They're like, "You have reached this company. Press one for something," and it 80% of them hung up. It was an extremely high number, and it's like, well, what's wrong with the ads? What's wrong with the keywords? And we finally looked at, okay, switch it to a live person, whether it's there or it's somewhere else, and that cut out nearly all of the dropped calls. Um, it just people hated that voice menu. Maybe it sounded like a voicemail, like they're not
It's
there.
corporate.
Maybe, yeah,
It's
something
so
just
corporate.
they
If you're a
hated it.
multinational, you have to have a interactive, an IVR, interactive
Yeah,
voice menu, whatever. But yeah, small businesses, you should be at worst if you are busy and on the phone, put them on hold and tell them you're on hold, you're next in line or whatever. But forcing people through different menus is just, yeah, we all hate it. And it just it feels like you're just going to go into the mill in some big corporate. Um, and if that's the kind of product or service, then fair enough. But if you're a small business trying to act big, I think act small because a lot of people appreciate that.
yeah, and people don't calculate, okay, you can't hire a full-time person to sit there in the office and answer, but there's tons of answering services, whether you want it in your country or you don't care if it's overseas. That's a business decision that's up to you. But they look at, oh, it's $500 a month for someone with the call volume we're getting. It's like, but you spend $20,000 a month on ads. How many calls are you losing to this voice menu? Or if it's $2,000 a month for a call center, but you're spending 50,000 a month on ads, it's like you have to look at how many jobs you're losing because of the voice menu or because of the call recording or whatever else it is. You can't just look at the one cost and say, well, we'll just do a voice menu. They're cheap.
And if you have all this lead data, you can literally calculate it because you know how many leads come in, you know how many are qualified, and you know what the average order is off the back of them. So you can literally
Yeah.
calculate the loss of having that problem, which is why the first party data is so difficult. So important, not difficult,
It's important
not
and it's
anymore.
difficult, but yeah, it's not even that difficult anymore, actually.
Well,
Most
the
most
good
things just
news
plug
is I've
in.
got a couple of videos coming up from God tier community members who are going to show how to set it up, and then we've got server side tracking, then we've got the whole end to end of offline conversion tracking. So there will be no excuses for anyone not to be able to do it.
Yeah,
So
really
that
technical deep dive. Yeah, that'll be good for the technical people that are going to do it all themselves. Yeah, definitely watch
yeah.
that. Or hire it out if you don't know, you don't have the time. Maybe it's $1,000. Just pay for it. It's worth the money to get
Well,
somebody to do that.
I know life is short, and in my early years, I would literally learn everything and try it myself and do it myself, so I knew how it worked.
Yeah,
And that and I know, like I just said, life's short. People are like, well, can't I automate it or use AI? You can, but I think there's still a lot of merit in understanding how does this thing work, and just trying it once or just try set something up once. And if you struggle, outsource it. I'm not saying do
yeah,
it every single time, but just understanding like this key component to what I do as a job. Like, how does it work? Do I care? Like, tag manager, it's not my favorite thing, but I
uh,
have used it sufficiently that I know how it works, what it does. I'm no tag manager expert, but I needed for my own sanity, I needed to get a base level understanding to go, oh right, so we are relying on this thing. What does it do? I will try it. instead of just going, yeah, we use these things. I don't know what they do, but it seems to work. It's kind of, I don't know. What I'm saying is, don't be lazy. Do try it a bit, particularly if you're a freelancer or an agency. If you're a business owner, I understand. And
Yeah.
probably because you're not going to do this as a profession, you don't need to do it, outsource it. But for marketing pros like ourselves, then get a foundation. Yes, AI might replace it all in a year. It doesn't matter. Just understand what it's doing today. What the obvious thing, where can people find you?
LinkedIn, that's actually me if you want to talk to me, or Online Advertising Academy is our YouTube channel, content just like yours, kind of how to do stuff in Google Ads, kind of deep dives or beginner stuff. And then, of course, our agency, falcondigitalmarketing.com. So,
Yeah, Falcon Digital. We'll stick some links in the description. So go and follow Chris. Go and find him. And if you think if you're a business owner out there that doesn't have all this stuff in place, definitely talk to Chris. He knows what he's up to. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for listening. I say everyone. It's a mistake. See, I've only been doing YouTube for about 10 years, Chris. I should say thank you for listening because there's only one person that we're talking to right now.
sure.
So yeah, leave a comment. If there's any questions off the back of what we've been discussing, leave a comment and we'll get back to them. I always get back to them if I can. Drop a like and do subscribe if you want more because not enough people subscribe. And apparently I need to ask you to do that so we get more views and stuff, which is great. It means we can make more videos. Brilliant. Thank you, everyone. This has been the 5th episode of the Over Budget podcast that isn't a podcast that eventually might become a podcast. Chris, thank you very much. Everyone else, cheers.